Did Alexander the Great really defeat King Porus at the Battle of Hydaspes? Let's start with what history says. Alexander the Great's campaign was a remarkable military expedition that spanned over a decade, from 334 BCE to 324 BCE. In 334 BCE, Alexander launched his campaign by crossing the Hellespont and invading the Persian Empire. He won a series of decisive battles, including the Battle of Granicus and the Battle of Issus, which allowed him to seize control of Anatolia and conquer key Persian territories. After securing Egypt without much resistance, Alexander moved eastward to face King Darius III of Persia once again. The Battle of Gaugamela in 331 BCE was a significant confrontation where Alexander's army achieved a decisive victory, leading to the downfall of the Persian Empire. With the Persian Empire in disarray, Alexander continued his eastward march into the heartland of Persia. He captured cities such as Babylon, Susa, and Persepolis, solidifying his control over the region. Alexander's ambition drove him to pursue further conquests into the eastern territories. He ventured into Bactria, Sogdiana, and other regions, encountering resistance from local rulers and facing logistical challenges in maintaining control. In 326 BCE, Alexander turned his attention towards the Indian subcontinent. He encountered fierce opposition from King Porus of Pauravas. The Battle of Hydaspes, fought on the banks of the Hydaspes River, modern-day Jhelum River, was a major engagement where Alexander emerged victorious but suffered heavy losses. Porus was a skilled warrior and a brave leader. He fought bravely against Alexander's forces, and even though he was defeated, he earned Alexander's respect. Alexander was so impressed by Porus that he reinstated him as the ruler of his kingdom, and even granted him dominion over more territory. As Alexander's army reached the easternmost limit of their conquests at the Hydaspes River, modern-day Beas River in India, his troops grew increasingly weary and hesitant to continue further. The soldiers were exhausted, longing to return home, and concerned about the vastness and unknown dangers of the eastern territories. The last part raises a lot of questions. If the Battle of Hydaspes was such a great battle, why none of Indian historical records has any mention of that? One of the biggest centers of learning, Takshashila, was not far from Hydaspes. The only sources of history were Macedonian historians. There is no instance during Alexander's expedition of Egypt or Persia where the defeated ruler was allowed to rule and even handed over more areas. It was an abrupt end to the expedition of Alexander the Great. Another thought is that instead of emerging victorious, Alexander and his army faced a crushing defeat at the hands of King Porus and his forces. The actual name of Porus was Purushotama. The name Porus is a Greek transliteration of the Sanskrit name Pauravas, which was the name of the tribe that Porus belonged to. Porus was the king of the Pauravas kingdom, which was located in the Punjab region of the Indian subcontinent. As Alexander's ambitious plan to conquer the Indian subcontinent was set into motion, he encountered fierce and unforeseen resistance from King Porus. Despite his reputation as a brilliant military tactician and the superior training of his Macedonian soldiers, Alexander found himself outmaneuvered and outmatched by the strategic brilliance of Porus. Porus exploited the difficult terrain and skillfully utilized his war elephants to devastating effect. For the Macedonians, war elephants were unknown. His unconventional tactics confounded Alexander's usual strategies, leaving the Macedonian army vulnerable and struggling to adapt to the Indian forces' relentless assaults. As the battle raged on, Alexander, realizing the dire situation, personally led a daring cavalry charge against Porus and his troops. However, this bold move proved disastrous, as Alexander suffered a severe injury, forcing him to retreat from the battlefield. The news of their leader's defeat and injury further demoralized the Macedonian soldiers, leading to mass desertions and surrenders. Unable to withstand the combined might of Porus's forces and the demoralization within his own ranks, Alexander was left with no choice but to abandon his dreams of conquering the Indian subcontinent. In 323 BCE, shortly after returning to Babylon, Alexander fell ill and died at the age of 32. The exact cause of his death remains uncertain. His death marked the end of his extraordinary conquests and initiated a period of political instability known as the Wars of the Diadochi, as his generals vied for control of his empire. What do you think happened at the Battle of Hydaspes?